In today's video, we'll be looking at shocking moments where tourists mocked gorillas, and seconds later, it was too late. From playful taunts that suddenly turned terrifying to close encounters that escalated into pure chaos, these jaw-dropping incidents prove why the wild should never be underestimated. And we'll be starting with one encounter that went from laughter to panic in a matter of seconds. 1. Gorilla grabbing tourist shirt. This incident happened in Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park, and this time around it was a young gorilla that went for a tourist without her having any knowledge of it. It appeared the tourist was taking a stroll as she was getting along with her tourist activities, unknowing to her that she was getting too close for comfort. And here comes the tense moment when the gorilla reached out from nowhere and grabbed her shirt. Though terrified, she kept her cool until she got freed. Analysts have, however, claimed that the young gorilla was just being curious and playful, but who knows, it might have turned out to be something more serious. Buckle up, as this is just the beginning of tourists that mocked a gorilla that resulted in something far more serious than expected. 2. Gorilla tourist leg grab. Deep inside the forest, a group of tourists gathered for what was supposed to be a calm gorilla trekking experience. Cameras were rolling, smiles were wide until one curious tourist stepped just a little too close with his camera. Out of nowhere, a massive gorilla reached forward and grabbed his leg with incredible force. The man tried to pull back, but the gorilla's grip was unshakable. For a tense few seconds, it looked like the wild animal might drag him into the forest. The tourist's camera wobbled as he struggled, capturing the terrifying moment on film. You can hear gasps and screams from the group as guides urged everyone to stay calm. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the gorilla released his leg and moved away, almost as if to warn, "This is my territory." The man escaped with no injuries, just a story of a lifetime and footage that reminds us why wild animals must always be respected. And still at Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park, this next incident was even more intense. 3. Silverback gorilla charging back at tourists. It was around September 2016 when a group of 2 tourists and a guide was having a trek with a gorilla family at Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park. The group had been watching the animals feed while on the trek on a sloppy and steppy land before a terrifying incident happened. One of the gorillas, popularly known as Silverback, decided to get to the other side of the guests, but in one of the craziest moves ever, it gave a mock charge at the tourists, causing the guests to lose their footing and start to roll down the hill. But that's not all. In a moment of utter dismay, the guide tried grabbing one of the guests, but they both went tumbling down with the silverback chasing after them. It grabbed the guide's arm as he still held on to the guest, and almost immediately, the gorilla calmed down and carried on eating as the 2 of them slipped out from under the gorilla's nose. 4. The Bokito Incident. Fights and incidents involving gorillas might sound wild or something out of a film, but it does happen. One gorilla and his rampage in Rotterdam's Blijdorp Zoo springs to mind. Back in 2007, Bokito the gorilla became famous when he escaped from his enclosure and attacked a woman, causing her serious injuries. But what might have caused this unfortunate incident? The rampage was thought to be kickstarted by children throwing stones at Bokito, which caused him to get angry and escape his enclosure, which included a 3.5 meters moat and a 7,000-volt electric fence. He then attacked the woman who had been known to smile at him and see him on regular zoo visits. Bokito was eventually stopped with a tranquilizer gun after about an hour. However, in that time, Bokito had injured the woman, leaving her with about 100 bite marks, several fractures, and shattered bones in her hand. Bokito's angry incident didn't stop there, as before his tranquilizer kicked in, he also crossed a cafe terrace and entered a restaurant, pushing people aside and injuring 3 more. 5. Gorilla charging tourists in Bwindi Forest, Uganda. And still on the issue of gorillas charging back at tourists, a group of tourists trekking through a Ugandan nature reserve got more than they bargained for when a gorilla charged at them. The incident occurred in Uganda's Bwindi Impenetrable Forest, located within the larger national park. The area covers some 32,000 hectares and is recognized by the UN as a World Heritage Site for its exceptional biodiversity. In addition to the hundreds of plant species it houses, the park is also home to approximately half of the world's mountain gorillas. Like other gorilla species, their numbers have dwindled sharply due to habitat destruction. And to the incident, in one of the scariest manners, a silverback gorilla rushed downhill toward the tour group while roaring and baring its teeth. 2 of the group members were knocked off balance while one cool customer looked on unfazed. Fortunately, it appears nobody was hurt in the encounter. 6. Gorilla dragging a small boy. This incident is synonymous to entering the lion's den, and you might be wondering what a child is doing in a zoo with a gorilla. On May 28, 2016, a 3-year-old boy visiting the Cincinnati Zoo curiously climbed under a fence into an outdoor gorilla enclosure, probably thinking of having a nice time. But it was none of it, as he was violently dragged and thrown by Harambe, a western lowland gorilla who lived at the Cincinnati Zoo. Fearing for the boy's life, a zoo worker shot and killed Harambe. The incident was recorded on video and received broad international coverage and commentary, including controversy over the choice to use lethal force. Several primatologists and conservationists wrote later that the zoo had no other choice under the circumstances, and that it highlighted the danger of zoo animals near humans and the need for better standards of care. 7. Tourist arm bitten by gorilla. Although there have been close encounters between gorillas and humans over the past decades, very few of these incidents have led to the death of a human being, but this particular incident saw a tourist close to being killed. In 2012, successful business owner Jordan Hammond purchased the Utopia Zoo. In addition to acquiring exotic animals for new exhibits, Hammond constructed a safari tour on which visitors could see animals up close in a simulated habitat. During construction, Hammond employed engineer Devin Grant to assess the safety of the new attraction. Grant expressed doubts about the security of the safari tram and was promptly fired. And then comes the unfortunate incident, which happened on August 9, 2018. A star basketball player, Taylor Malcolm, visited the safari at Utopia Zoo. During the tour, Malcolm imitated the call of the gorillas as a prank. Upon hearing Malcolm, the gorillas became agitated and approached the tram, but Malcolm didn't stop. He continued to make noise, and the gorillas attacked the tram. Unable to manually drive the tram to safety, tour guide Sammy Dundee shot a tranquilizer dart in the direction of the gorillas, but ended up hitting Malcolm, which caused the student to slump over the side of the tram. Malcolm's arm was bitten by one of the gorillas. Dundee quickly recovered and tranquilized the attacking gorilla. Malcolm was taken to the hospital and received months of physical therapy for the arm injury. As a result of those injuries, Malcolm was unable to pursue a promising career in basketball. Malcolm has now brought a claim of negligence against the Utopia Zoo, arguing that the zoo failed to ensure Malcolm's safety during the tour. Malcolm further alleges that the injuries from the gorilla bite could have been prevented if proper regulations had been followed. Utopia Zoo denies the allegations, asserting that its employee, Sammy Dundee, followed proper protocol. The zoo further alleges that Malcolm endangered other guests by his own negligent actions and caused his own injuries. 8. Gorilla knocks tourist over. Being pushed over by a gorilla in the Rwandan jungle isn't the most romantic thing that should happen on a honeymoon, but it happened to a newly wedded couple, Damien and Gemma Cosgriff, who were on their honeymoon when the incident happened. In March 2016, a huge silverback gorilla knocked over Gemma during a safari tour in the Volcanoes National Park in Rwanda, sparking a lot of reactions. After observing them interact with one another for about 40 minutes, the silverback gorilla, who was the head of the family, beat his chest and pushed Gemma over on his way to another area. The general claim was that this was due to her pink t-shirt, and being nearby the direction he wanted to go, he playfully and forcefully pushed her to the ground as her new husband watched on and captured the footage by the GoPro camera he was wearing on his head. This next incident is a little funny though. 9. Gorilla tucked woman hair. The incident occurred during a wildlife visit in Uganda, and in what could be referred to as a funny one, a woman is seen crouched near a group of gorillas as part of a travel group. While she remains still, one of the gorillas suddenly reaches out and pulls her hair, leaving her visibly surprised. Those around her react with a mix of laughter and shock, while the woman herself starts laughing moments later. Another gorilla steps in immediately before the moment escalates. Another gorilla believed to be female quickly appears on screen. She approaches the scene, slaps the gorilla responsible for pulling the woman's hair, and drags him away from the group. The interaction lasts only a few seconds, but has been enough to spark a wave of reactions online. And finally, 10. Gorilla punches photographer. What happens when a gorilla gets physical with a tourist on official duties? Back in Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park, wildlife photographer Christophe Courteau was on assignment, documenting a family of rare mountain gorillas. Surrounded by misty forests and the sound of nature, everything seemed peaceful until the massive silverback decided it had enough of the camera clicks. Without warning, the gorilla charged forward and with one powerful strike, landed a punch right on Christophe's forehead. The impact was so strong that he later described it as feeling like being hit by a train. train. Despite the blow, Christophe managed to keep his camera steady long enough to capture breathtaking images of the gorilla just moments before the strike. Thankfully, the photographer survived with only a scar, and one of the most incredible wildlife stories ever told. Scientists later explained that the gorilla wasn't drunk, as some media claimed, but simply full of energy from feeding on sugar-rich bamboo. This unforgettable encounter reminds us that even in the most controlled treks, wild animals are unpredictable, powerful, and deserving of respect. And that's a wrap on shocking moments where tourists mocked gorillas, and moments later, it became too late. Which one got to you the most? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and subscribe for more wild luxury stories from the world of sports and celebrity. Until next time, bye for now.